meditate on this. The subconscious mind is like a black hole. It's a vacuum. It pulls in everything that crosses its path. The portals or gateways to the subconscious mind exist on the human body, in the human body. Some of them are called ears, some of them are called eyes. And you can receive certain signals and things and messages, etc., through these senses, through these tools for senses, sight, hearing, etc. But no matter what you do, no matter what you put in front of your ears, no matter what you put in front of your eyes, just understand that the subconscious mind is going to receive that, and it's going to be embedded within you in perpetuity. It's going to be with you forever. And the people in power know this. The ruling class know this, and they do a damn good job of putting things in there that are not going to lead to quality of thought. It's important that you take control of this and try to embed things with high quality of thought into your subconscious mind, so that when they come back to the surface, when they come back, they pop out on the other side, they're fruitful. They're things that are good for you, things that lead to quality of thought. So try to embed good things in your subconscious mind. Now that we know we have to program the subconscious mind, do that consciously, the next question becomes, with what? I believe we need to start with music. Music is very natural. Everybody loves music. They're even treating dementia with music, because music can take you to the past, bring you to memories, the vibe. Everything is just seems to come into focus clearly. It's easily visualized when you put music and have a soundtrack to your life. And so what type of music do we listen to? You know, it's part of our daily ritual. It's part of our daily dealings in programming the subconscious mind. The type of music we listen to is very important. And think about quality of thought. Is your music going to nurture the idea of quality of thought? Or is it ratchet? Is it supremely ghetto? Is it trash? Or is it breathing life into you? Right? It's the difference between listening to, you know, something that's promoting death as to something that's promoting life. Looking at some of the neurological effects that happen when you listen to certain types of music, nourishing the brain with that type of music. The TV shows you watch, the movies you watch. What type of shows do you watch, and how are you inspired by them? What are the images that are being implanted in your subconscious mind from the movies and TV and the media that you watch, from the things you watch on YouTube, etc., etc. If you look at one of those controversial stories about TikTok, I said that Chinese people, or the Chinese Communist Party, whatever, has a different algorithm than the one for the Western nations. The one in the Western nations, the kids are watching videos that go viral, doing pranks and all types of silly stuff. And China's algorithm is showing kids completing puzzles and doing math. These are the things they're promoting because they understand the programming of the subconscious mind is very important for the future of your people and where they're going. So with that same concept in mind, you know, what type of media are you always being influenced by? What type of media do you constantly force yourself to be influenced by? You know, what if we saw images of love all the time instead of images of destruction, war, etc., etc.?
What type of media is Hotep Jesus influenced by?
I like the old stuff. I like the classics. Mostly written work, literature. That's the type of stuff I listen to. I listen to a lot of lectures. You know, one of my favorite lecturers is John Henry Clark, Dr. Kaba Kamene. Those are like two of my faves. I like listening to scholarly work, scholarly teachers. I go to bed to to chess videos, but I also need some gangster in my life. You know, I'm not perfect, but I need some, you know, I need some cartel gang member, you know, type programming. This is, you know, that's the stuff I happen to like. You know, I like violent movies. I like heists. I like heist movies, like The Italian Job and Ocean's 11 and, you know, those types of things. I like military movies. Like, I thought the new Top Gun was amazing. But I also try to be conscious of what I'm seeing, and so, you know, what's clear is we're gonna come across some content that is not going to nurture quality or high quality of thought. So what we have to do is we have to wrap this stuff with labels. So what you can do is when an image appears before your subconscious mind, what we can do is we can frame it. So when it gets embedded and it gets stored within your mental hard drive, it's filed in a folder, you know, marked bad, marked good, marked to question, marked, you know, you can label these things. So sometimes when things come into our subconscious mind, we don't frame it, we don't put a label on it. I think we have to say, okay, if I'm watching a movie and they're murdering people, let's say for instance, as we're watching this, we got to label that bad. This is bad. This is no bueno, right? And even some labels that your personal opinion might weigh in on, and how you manage this stuff logically. So even though everything's going to be received by your subconscious mind, and some things you may enjoy, some pieces of content you may enjoy, it's very important to frame that stuff and label that stuff. So when it gets into your subconscious mind, your subconscious mind knows, okay, this is this and this is that. So it knows clear difference. It's not just sitting there to be sprouted later on in the wrong manner or intent. What is your receptivity? Are you receiving the signals, or are you only transmitting them? You have to tune your inner radio to receive messages, not only send them. Sometimes we get caught up with our conscious mind. Our conscious mind is constantly sending signals out to the universe, to God, to friends, family, etc., etc. But sometimes you have to reset yourself and come back to zero and just say, I'm not intending to send any messages, I'm intending to receive them. I call it no mind. I've spoken about this in the past. And we want to open up the mind, enter a state of receptivity, to receive the signals, to be imbued by God. Messages, prescient visualizations, to be omniscient. All these things are made possible by entering a receptive state, by dismissing the world and all of its physicalness, dismissing the world and all of its 3D-ness, dismissing the matrix, forgetting you are of this physical dimension. Dismissing all of that, obviously easier said than done, but moving away from all of these things, dismissing them from their mind. And the easiest way to do that is to actually distract yourself. You have to distract yourself with the senses. It's much easier to enter a state of receptivity when you're out here and you have the breeze blowing against your skin. That's easy.
Yeah, I can try to get that handled for you. Again, it's only my second day, so if you can give me a second. How am I supposed to do this? How the hell are we supposed to do this by 5 o'clock?
I have no clue.
Is that possible? Hey, do you have the password to... How'd you finish all your work already?
He's not tapped in. How'd you get that done so quick?
They think they're gonna be able to budget that?
It's money. That's money right there, you understand? You guys finished your work 6 hours early?
He's not tapped in.
2, 1, boom. Hotep Jesus.
Of all the Jesuses I know, he's the Hotepiest. Social scientist and YouTube host, Hotep Jesus.
How the fuck do you get a name like Hotep Jesus?
The one and only Hotep Jesus.
Ryan Sharp, better known to the world as Hotep Jesus.
Hotep Jesus. Hotep Jesus. Hotep Jesus.
Hotep, you're a genius. HotepJesus.com.
Somebody said, "What do you think you are? Some kind of Hotep Jesus?"
Ooh,
and
that's
I was
good.
Just like, ooh, that's sexy. Yes, I do think I'm Hotep Jesus.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special edition of the Grift Report. I'm your host, Hotep Jesus, the Grift God.
Hotep Jesus. Hotep Jesus. Hotep Jesus.
Hotep, you're a genius. HotepJesus.com.
Shout out to the chat. Real quick. This stream contains adult humor and was created strictly for comedic and artistic purposes. No offense is intended toward any projects or individuals featured in this video. What up, chat? EMP in the chat. I see you. Whiskey. What's up, man? Sauce to Prophet. What up? I see Jabari in the chat. What up? There's an earthquake in Morocco? Nah, I'm not covering that. Latasha Jordan said, "Am I vegan?" Not yet. Eventually. Hotep to the chat.
Hotep.
Are we discussing New Mexico today? No, that's tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about New Mexico and feminism and a whole bunch of other stuff. Today is a special presentation. It's a big brain presentation. It's a topic that I love to cover. So without further ado, let's go ahead and bring this stuff up on your screen. Right here. So here we have, and just so everybody knows, there's an audio version of this podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Just type in the Grift Report and you will be able to find that. All right, so let's come here. Hold on, let me fix this on your screen so you see it real good. Hold on, let's change that. So this is a live demo of a CBDC, live demo of a CBDC, how to use a CBDC to make payments. This is part of the G20 summit, and this was published 7 hours ago. This is in India, I believe, so let's go take a look.
BQ is back again at the Crafts Bazaar at the New Delhi Summit, and here we wanted to bring you an interactive demo in terms of how CBDCs are being used to make purchases, just in the same QR code that you're so familiar with. Let's walk by and try to see a live demo that's happening of a customer trying to purchase using their CBDC token, but just through the QR code, like we do for Paytm or any other UPI devices. So as you can see here, we have a customer who has their wallet open.
Now I'm trying to pay using the CBDC, and you can see there's a QR scan option which is there. Now what I'm trying to do is paying the user for 700 rupees which is there, and there's an option to enter the PIN which is there.
Shout out to the people that now know
we
it's
can see
PIN.
the transaction is successful and the notification has come. I can see 2 notes are used. One is of 200 rupees and one is of 500 rupees.
Thank you so much. Thank you. This is a live demonstration.
Thank you, sir.
And the purchase behind me is completed just as simply. This is a demonstration of the retail CBDC. This was launched in December 2022.
Wait a second. Why did split the payment?
Successful. And the notification has come. I can see 2 notes are used. One is of 200 rupees and one is of 500 rupees.
Thank you so much. Thank you. This is a live demonstration.
Thank you, sir.
And
That's a bit suspicious that they split the payments.
the purchase behind me is complete.
We're going to go into the IMF document in a minute, and you'll see why that's kind of suspicious.
Completed just as simply. This is a demonstration of the retail CBDC. This was launched in December 2022. And as of the end of this year, RBI aims to complete 1 million transactions per day. This is an effort going towards that. And the UPI interoperability was announced in July. And we are seeing that now as quickly as possible it is being done.
All right. So you see that's in India. Thing is operational, up and running. People are using it. I don't know who that guy was. He might be an op. We don't know. But let's get to the gettings to. Now, a few days ago, we uncovered some information about the International Monetary Fund, one of the major world banks. And they said that they were going to issue some guidance on CBDCs. And they, in fact, did do so. And I'll show you that. Hold on. Let me switch this really fast. I'll show you something. Let's do it in this one. Let's just make it easier. Let's just put it here. All right. So on IMF.org, there's 2 papers, right? We're only going to go over one. Although I do suggest taking a look at both of them. This one, it says, I'm sorry. This one paper here is called A Guide to Central Bank Digital Currency Product Development. And this is very important for anybody who wants to learn about project management or get some insight on how they're managing this project. You would look at this document. And I read through that one. Pretty standard stuff there. But the one we're going to focus on today is this one. It says, how should central banks explore central banking digital currency? So let's go to that document now. And you'll see it here on your screen, FinTech Notes. This is straight from the International Monetary Fund, a.k.a. the IMF. How should central banks explore central bank digital currency? Okay. Of course, I've gone through this and made all of my highlights. So we're going to go ahead and just skip over the introduction here and come down to our first highlights. And our first highlights here are an example of Israel. And it says Israel, potential scenarios for deciding to issue a digital shekel. It says here the Bank of Israel steering committee on the potential issuance of a digital shekel has outlined a number of potential scenarios that could lead to deciding to issue a digital shekel. These scenarios might not be compelling for other jurisdictions. These scenarios are as follows. So it says here, so this is in regards to should Israel issue a digital shekel? And here are some reasons why they might. And it says, number 1, because other people have, because other countries have. It's the first thing that they put. It says a decision by the United States or the Euro area or by a significant number of other developed economies to issue a CBDC would influence the decision in Israel. And this is something that we've covered on this channel where we said if America were to do it, they're actually going to look at other countries. Other countries are doing it. We got to do it. This is something we've discussed. Then it says here the legitimate use of cash. So they're expecting a decline of cash usage in the future, and they're questioning the public's ability to make transactions using central bank money may decline rapidly, right? So cashless society. Significant penetration of stablecoins or other private means of payment that would be broadly used might impair the payment system. So basically what they're saying is competition. If a stable coin comes around or some other means of private payment, private money, sovereign money, shout out to Syscoin, by the way, which could be a form of private money. They said that they would issue a CBDC, right? Then the last one here says obviously advancing technological use cases. So being on the cutting edge of technology, which is pretty much standard. So then there's different phases of this development here and their guidance. And they said this is part 3, which is the preparation phase here on page 8. And it says future proofing. So basically issuing a CBDC to prevent any, just to be ahead of things, right? To sort of prepare for the future. They call it future proofing. All right. Is everybody following? Let me check on the chat. How did chat doing? Hey, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the like button. You know what I mean? It's a nice little Saturday vibe. Nice little quiet Saturday vibe. Going over some big brain content.
You know what I mean? All right. Box 2, UK motivations for the digital pound. So what would motivate the UK? It says here, the Bank of England and the Treasury, likely that the digital pound will be needed in the future for the following reasons. And it says, of course, monetary and financial stability. And this is, again, more supporting what we've discussed on this channel before about the state of the financial stability, right? So basically saying that the CBDC will protect us from any financial instability. And then, of course, promotion of innovation, right? So technology. We got to have the latest and greatest technology. So it continues here and it talks about the CBDC decision-making process. And of course, they use none other than financial inclusion and customer protection. Customer protection, if you read my book, The Patriot Report, Unmasking the Conspiracy of Money and War, available now on HotepJesus.com.
Hotep, you're a genius. HotepJesus.com.
If you read that, then you know about the dangers of selling things under the guise of consumer protection, because the road to hell is paved with communist intentions, as I've tweeted out this week. So, of course, they're going to try and financial inclusion and, oh, yeah, we have to protect our consumers. Okay, cool, sure. Then it says here, the following subsections discuss the most common policy objectives of central banks when considering a CBDC. They are grouped in the following broad categories: promote access to payments and financial inclusion. Again, financial inclusion. Facilitate payment system competition. Now, this is basically saying we want to control the game. We want to control the competition. You know, they say they want to facilitate payment system competition, but really it's just about controlling the game. And then it says monetary sovereignty. Now, when they use the term monetary sovereignty, they're not talking about protecting your sovereignty. They're talking about protecting their sovereignty, protecting their governance over monetary policy and financial alleged stability. Then they have a section dedicated to access to payments and financial stability. And you'll see here that they mention people with disabilities. This is something that Black Lives Matter has used in the past. And again, communists like to find marginalized groups, impoverished groups, underserved groups, and then exploit them to create programs and systems. And here they're talking about people with disabilities, physical or cognitive disabilities, right? So they're saying the CBDC is going to help people who are disabled. And again, it says CBDC could potentially help lower barriers to financial inclusion. And in fact, they even have something called an Alliance for Financial Inclusion 2022. So there's a whole group of people dedicated to inclusion. And then, of course, they end off here with distrust of financial service providers, right? So again, protecting consumers, right? So basically they'll say things like FTX and SBF, because these people exist, we have to protect you from them, right? We don't want you to learn your mistakes on your own. We want to be your guardian and your savior and your protector. So it says here, this is very important. This is something that AK talked about this week and something that we've all predicted would happen. Well, it's right here in the IMF guidance paper. It says CBDC could be used to channel government payments. There it is right there. That's how they're going to sell it. That's exactly how they're going to sell it. And it says right here, government payments directly to households. For instance, subsidies or fiscal stimulus payments. So your next stimmy, guess what? You want this stimmy? Get the CBDC wallet. It says likewise, CBDC can provide an additional means of payment for individuals for government services, fees, or taxes. Yes, taxes. And this is something we've also discussed. In many countries, such payments are currently made in cash, which is costly, carries risk, and lacks transparency. CBDC for fiscal transfers could possibly mitigate these concerns. Okay, fiscal transfers. And of course, next paragraph here, they talk about cross-border payments, right? And it says central banks have to work together from an early stage to achieve interoperability of their CBDC. So this is the, I won't say global cooperation, but let's just say global cooperation to make things simple. It's Westernist cooperation, and then there'll be a BRICS cooperation. Again, we've discussed this, but there will be a need for the IMF, right? And the IMF issuing these documents is them basically saying, hey guys, I'm gonna show you how to do this thing, okay? And that gives us purpose in this world government, right? So, and obviously the IMF is not needed in this, so them just like putting their nose in this is them basically, it's kind of like trying to make sure that you're not removed from being an intermediary, right? You just sort of do stuff to make yourself useful. Women do this in corporate America. Sorry for being the sexist on the stream, but you know, some people would just make up all types of shit to seem useful when really we didn't need you to print this report out, Susan. We didn't need this at all. We had already made decisions on this, but now we feel bad because you put together this 20-page report and we're like, well, we kind of need to keep her around because, well, she seems to be trying to make herself useful, but really she's just doing busy work. Anyway, let's continue. I'm not going to let my corporate America frustrations take over this podcast. Now check this out. It says the central bank, there's a lot of eerie stuff in this thing. Anyway, it says the central bank needs to evaluate the alternative and complementary solutions to achieving the objective of payment access and financial inclusion. For instance, many central banks are weighing whether instant payment systems could promote cheaper and faster digital payments and if they could fruitfully coexist with the CBDC. So basically they're saying, can Zelle and PayPal and all these other guys coexist with the CBDC, right? Likewise, digital and financial literacy programs are likely needed as a complement to CBDC to address financial inclusion goals. So they mentions financial literacy programs and financial inclusion goals in the same sentence because what they're going to do is they're going to educate, aka indoctrinate poor people, impoverished people, the unbanked, the marginalized, et cetera, et cetera. They're going to indoctrinate them with their financial literacy programs so that they believe that the CBDC is good. So when somebody gets up on stage and says it's not good, they can scream and call them racist. Let's continue. Payment system, competition, efficiency, and resilience. So this section to me was very interesting because I'm like, what are you about to do with the competition? Like, how are you going to rig the game so you can control it? So it says payment systems exhibit economies of scale and network effects, which could result in digital payment networks becoming dominated by a few. All right, so what this is referring to is a monopoly. And in my head, I'm like, wait a second. You don't want somebody else to create a monopoly because then that would destroy your monopoly. Again, competition. See, they're not worried about competition in the market. They're talking about competition directly related to them, the central bankers. That's the competition that they're worried about. So they're saying before we allow a monopoly of a payment service provider like a PayPal or something like that, we're going to be the monopoly and we're going to make sure these guys don't monopolize the game. That's pretty much what's happening here. In certain jurisdictions over time, it says that can result in a lack of contestability, resulting in higher fees and large social consequences of payment service disruptions, blah, blah, blah. So basically saying that, if somebody creates a monopoly, they can raise the fees on you and have some sort of control over people, which is absolutely possible. However, in the private market, somebody would just come out with a cheaper product and then prices would come down. But then the Fed would say, wait, those prices are too cheap. And again, it's just more communism. So let's continue. CBDC could also complement cash. Yeah, okay. Physical cash distribution can be challenging sometimes, for example, during and after natural disasters. Now, I circle natural disasters because we told you, we discussed this before, natural disasters could be one of the flags that they use to implement this CBDC. And it says right here, again, promoting resilience to natural disasters or wars. What are we in the middle of right now? War, Ukraine and Russia conflict. So war could also be a reason to install a CBDC. Let's continue. Let's drop down in the bottom of this paragraph here. It's talking about PSPs, payment service providers. It says, therefore, CBDC could also be designed as an infrastructure that could help achieve standardization and interoperability of private systems. So when they say standardization of private systems, that's a fancy way of saying communism. Standardization of private systems, basically saying we're going to control the private market. This is centralization of power. This could also be deemed fascism if it came about violently, and it kind of is. So there's a bit of an overlap there. But standardization and interoperability of private systems. So basically, they're going to come in and say, hey, private market, here's how you need to operate. We're going to create the standardization, right? Again, this is all directly from the IMF.org. CBDC could also serve as the ultimate settlement asset for tokenized finance. That's basically saying, you can make a whole bunch of transactions, but then the payments will be settled in the CBDC token. And then they go on to say that this is risk-free money. And technically they can get away with saying that because, the people that write financial policy and education, they just sort of make up the rules and decide what it means to be risk-free money. And anyway, so they're saying that by underpinning settlement finality and providing access to risk-free money, CBDC could provide a foundation of trust. Both wholesale CBDC, not the focus of this paper, and retail CBDC could help safeguard singleness of money by ensuring convertibility of different tokenized private money. Okay? So, couple of things wrong with this sentence. First of all, this paper, they said, both wholesale CBDC, they said it does not focus on wholesale CBDC. What? So if it's not focusing on wholesale CBDC, then it's focusing on retail CBDC or just CBDCs as a whole. But why would it focus on wholesale CBDCs, which are large value transactions? And IMF, who is the world's central bank or Western central bank, acts as such. Why wouldn't they deal in wholesale CBDC if majority of their communications are B2B? Why would they focus on retail? That's really weird. I thought this paper would be about wholesale CBDCs, and it says that's not the focus of this paper. Meanwhile, we've taken a look at how other CBDC projects are focusing, and outside of the well-developed ones like China and India, much of the conversation is about wholesale CBDCs. So why are they not focused on wholesale CBDCs? That's really weird. Anyway, so then they say here, safeguard the singleness of money. The singleness, which means they only want one kind of money, their money, not private money, your money. But what they're saying is they want to ensure convertibility of different tokenized private money. So basically saying we can issue some private money in the private sector, or some money can be issued, but it must be convertible to the CBDC and back and forth to create that singleness of money, which would be the tokenized asset. So again, communism. I'm probably going to say communism. You got to take a shot every time I say communism during the stream. Let me check on the chat just to make sure they're not bugging out and nothing's wrong. Happy 100th episode to what? NWO Magicians. Yeah, absolutely. What up, Heather? She says, happy Saturday. Thank you. Happy Saturday, Griff. I'm on it. International Digital Currency Fund coming soon. Yeah, you're right, Hotep Dutch. You right. You said you think the feds need to pull cash? Why would they need to pull cash? Kevin says they already don't want people to know that they literally don't have enough money in the bank to give you what they have. I really have over $200 so I can bank at most ATMs. Wait till we get to the section on bank runs. Yeah, they talk about it in here. They cover every angle in here. All right, let's go back. All right, so monetary sovereignty. This section is called monetary sovereignty and monetary and financial stability, right? Now, look at this sentence here. It says, CBDC could potentially ensure that central banks can continue to not only fulfill their functions in the future, but also improve their functions by leveraging new technology. So basically what they're saying is CBDCs keep central banks relevant. So where you have some people saying end the Fed, well, CBDC is going to ensure that you can't end the Fed, or at least partly. It says here, with digitalization and failing cash usage in parts of the world, central banks are considering CBDC to ensure a fundamental anchor of trust in the monetary system. Public money being risk-free. Why do they keep saying public money is risk-free? I still can't get my head around that. Mostly because I've been studying public money, and public money is like, it's risk free to them. That's really what it is. It's risk free to them, but not to us, the taxpayer. Anyway, let's just continue. Because we pay for it through inflation and interest payments on treasury bonds and all that other shit. Anyway, let's just continue before I get in the weeds. Provides a benchmark for all other types of money. So again, being a reserve asset, right? And backstops them through convertibility, right? So being a reserve asset, basically. Convertibility helps ensure monetary and financial stability in a digital world where cash is no longer in use. CBDC could continue to serve this function, right? So it says central banks are exploring ways to maintain the demand for central bank money. So again, this CBDC is all about maintaining the demand for central bank money. And it says right here, they're not hiding their agenda. They just know that people aren't going to tune into this stream. They know people aren't going to listen to this stream on Spotify. People are not going to read this report. So they're going to tell you their plans. It's even part of Satanism. I think they said they have to tell you their plans. So it says central banks are exploring ways to maintain the demand for central bank money in the face of widespread use of crypto assets and potentially foreign issued CBDCs. Foreign issued CBDCs. So let's see what they say about that. If a significant share of domestic transactions is not denominated in the official unit of account and not settled through a central bank money, monetary policy could become ineffective. Basically what they're saying is if we start using Bitcoin or some other, let's say we start using Syscoin, right? If we start using Syscoin, they become obsolete. That's what that sentence reads. That's exactly how that sentence reads. It says, this is the currency substitution problem that some emerging market and developing companies are already suffering. So people are already saying, I don't want to use the currency of my country. I'm going to use crypto. And this is why there's a big push, especially amongst the right, to tell right wingers, say no to crypto altogether. But they're showing you right now, crypto is actually the thing that's toppling the central bankers in some countries. Some countries are dealing with currency issues because of cryptocurrency. So the right wing, the conservatives are like, oh, I don't want no digital crypto. I don't want that stuff. That stuff no good. I got my dollar. I got my cash. Crypto bad. Because they don't know anything. And then their influencers don't know anything. So then they'll keep pushing that. So the trick is to get everybody to hate crypto so they can pass this legislation. We'll say CBDC will crush crypto, right? Now, it won't technically crush crypto, to just basically, like I said, solidify central bank money, because you can't kill crypto because it's a protocol. Anyway, continuing, a CBDC could potentially improve, right here, competitiveness of the domestic currency versus foreign currencies, and other privately issued digital money. So the CBDC is about making the central bank competitive, not only to crypto, which is privately issued digital money, but also foreign currencies. So they're afraid that we might start transacting in foreign currencies, because if China issues a CBDC or has, and we get access to that, we might start, running around playing with the yuan, the renminbi, or however you say that, renminbi. Anyway, if it is well designed with attractive use features. For instance, if the CBDC has considerable user convenience or reduced cost to obtain it compared with cash issued in another jurisdiction, the domestic population might shift their usage toward domestic currency. So what they're saying is, if we program the CBDC right, people will not shy away from the dollar. And this is why I keep telling people, people keep saying the dollar is going to die, the dollar is going to die. I'm like, no, the dollar is not going to die. That's what they're going to tell you in order to bring about the CBDC. They're going to say, look, the dollar's dying. We got to move to the CBDC. And everybody's going to be like, oh, we knew it. The dollar's going to die. And they're going to present themselves as some sort of heroes. And then 3 years from now, people are going to be saying, Hotep Jesus, you are a prophet. You told us this. No, I wasn't a prophet. I just read the report from the IMF when nobody else did it. But it's right there. It's right there. It's telling you. Anyway, let's continue. It says CBDC successfully lowers the barriers, again, financial inclusion. And it says here, to the extent that CBDC competes with bank deposits. Now, when we talked about before, where your bank might go away. So this is a serious concern, and they mentioned this several times in this report. And it says, to the extent that CBDC competes with bank deposits, whether remunerated or not, banks' incentives to track deposit rates more closely with policy rates could increase, thus potentially improving monetary policy transmission. However, now this is the part you got to pay attention. We've been talking about this all week. However, that in turn could undermine the deposit franchise value of commercial banks, thus leading to consolidation and concentration. Such trade-offs are potentially first order and need to be carefully considered. So they're telling you this is of first order. What are we going to do about commercial banking? Okay. And he said this could lead to consolidation and concentration. Right now in my head, I'm trying to figure out if I need to try and break down and explain how this should happen. I think you guys are smart for the most part, but basically what they're saying is that banks would directly compete with the Fed because of interest rates programmed into the money. And when you got to compete with the Fed, you're probably going to lose, right? And actually, I don't have to explain it because they explained it in this report. So we'll just continue reading. But I do want to talk about this part right here, consolidation and concentration. That's JPM, right? So basically what's going to happen is your banks, your commercial banks, whatever bank you bank with, and you'll see it here later on what's going to happen to them in that section. But JPM is just going to buy them out. They're just going to get bought out. Right. And then there'll be like one or two banks left in America. It'll be JPM and Bank of America or something like that. And maybe your Federal Credit Union, if those things still exist. Right. So it says here, CBDC could enable more targeted monetary policy. This is important. Targeted monetary policy via transfers in emergency situations. So again, we told you, they're going to use emergency situations to sell this. So it says, such as helicopter monetary stimulus could be used in extreme circumstances, such as wars, pandemics, or natural disasters, if judged to be consistent with the central bank's mandate. So, assume there's a war, a pandemic, or a natural disaster, all three that we've experienced within the last year, that could lead to an excuse for a CBDC. And it says here, CBDC could also reduce currency substitution, thus potentially enhancing monetary policy implementation. Non-interest-bearing CBDC could preserve seniorage in the face of declining cash usage and in some countries help support financial and operational independence of the central bank. again, stability of the central bank. All right, let's go to this next section. This next section is called macro financial risk and impact considerations, right? So this is the things that they are concerned with, right? Risk. So let's jump right here. It says, as discussed at DAS and others, issuance of CBDC could result in a one-off tightening or loosening of monetary policy stance. So basically what they're saying in that sentence is monetary policy in America is going to change. Now, it could change once, or it could be, several times, could be loosening of monetary policy or tightening of monetary policy. But I think the most dangerous part is they're going to open up the books, right? And you guys know this stuff. Yeah, they issue these 1,000-page bills, right? And then in these bills, they stuff like a whole bunch of stuff in there. So that's what's going to happen with the CBDC legislation. We're going to be pulling that stuff out. It's going to be a 1,000-page document, 20,000-page document. Congress is going to have one night to review 20,000 pages. And then all types of things will be passed under our noses. Because they'll just stuff it all in one bill, right? So they're going to have to look at regulation laws and all that stuff, right, to be compliant with our government. Otherwise, we'd be able to sue them and get away with it. Central banks need to monitor potential effects and, if necessary, take measures to maintain a monetary policy stance. For instance, if there is outflow of deposits to CBDC, banks could respond by decreasing credit creation, right? Now, I want to pay attention to this sentence right here, because I had an argument with somebody I talked about on Twitter before, where they understand monetary policy as told to them by the Fed, but they don't understand monetary policy as told to them by Thomas Sowell, which is like basically like trying to listen to a liar versus the person trying to tell you the truth, right? So it says, for instance, if there is an outflow of deposits to the CBDC, right? So money creation, it's just a fancy way of saying printing money, right? Banks can respond by decreasing credit creation, right? So how would a bank decrease credit creation? Well, they could just increase interest rates, right? And that would make people less likely to ask for credit, which leads to a tightening of monetary policy stance. And it says central banks would then need to respond by loosening monetary policy to keep the policy stance unchanged. The funny thing is, this isn't how the Fed works, because this is the situation we're in now when we're dealing with inflation, where interest rates are through the roof for home loans and car loans, right? So we had an outflow of deposits, right? We had a large printing of money during the pandemic. Then what we have is the banks responding by trying to decrease credit creation with an increase in interest rates, right? And it says what the central bank was supposed to do was loosen monetary policy, but that's not what the Fed did. The Fed increased or tightened monetary policy by increasing the interest rates at the central bank level. So they did the opposite of what the IMF said they were supposed to do. And that's why I'm saying, like, let me just continue, because they say one thing over here and they do another over there. It's just a big game. And if you don't pay attention, if you don't study this stuff, you would never know it. Okay, so it's impact on banking sector intermediation and financial stability. Now, this is one of my favorite sections of this, because this is going to talk about the disappearance of banks, okay? The disappearance of banks, what's going to happen to a bank, okay? All right, let's go into this section. So it says a CBDC could be used not only as a means of payment, but also as a store of value. Now, remember, they said it's going to be used as a store of value, and then later on, they're going to completely contradict that. Oh my God, let's just continue. As such, it could undermine commercial bank intermediation. So basically saying your bank is a mediator or intermediary between you and the Fed, right? You, the Fed, and the Treasury, right? So they're saying the CBDC could undermine your bank. Now, remember before we discussed this on this channel, we said your bank could disappear. You would no longer deal with your bank. It's right here in the IMF paper. This is no longer conspiracy theory. This is now fact. These are things that we just thought of from our own mind, kind of just like looking at the thing in our head and saying, well, what does that mean for banks? And we said, wait, you might not need a bank if they come out with the CBDC, and the paper right here says it. And it's funny how they talk about it too. So it says here, and I'm going to read this entire section because there's a lot of highlights here. It says the potential for disintermediation depends on the design of the CBDC, particularly the level of CBDC remuneration via interest rates. So basically what they're saying is money services. When you see the term remuneration, they're talking about money services, right? And it says via interest rates, okay? So the CBDC could either have an interest rate, positive or negative, or no interest rate at all. Or it could be flexible and change at will. So I guess that's 3 different scenarios, right? And the third is probably the most likely. None of the launched or piloted CBDCs to date is interest bearing, okay? But in principle, the level of interest rate of the CBDC is a policy choice that could what? Vary over time. Okay? Now, like I told you, it's going to be flexible. It says here, if an interest-bearing CBDC did lead commercial banks to raise deposit rates, because they got to compete, theoretical models suggest that the magnitude of effects on the banking sector depend on the structure of the banking system and might be small in some circumstances, right? Let's continue though. Much depends on the banking sector concentration and banks' loan market power. Now, before I explain what's going on here, let me just finish this sentence. In some settings, higher bank deposit rates could lead to more deposits and lending. However, potentially commercial bank disintermediation could be meaningful, and that is an important policy consideration. I'm going to continue reading, and we're going to come back to JP Morgan. I just want you to keep JP Morgan top of mind when I read this section. An additional consideration is the riskiness of commercial bank loans. So basically what kind of loans they got on the books, right? A, B, triple B, triple Z, all of those bonds and shit, right? So it says remunerated CBDC, basically CBDC as a service, could push banks to invest in riskier projects. Why? Because they have to compete with the CBDC. If the CBDC is saying they're offering you 5%, if the bank wants to stay in business, they got to offer you 6%. Okay? And then, of course, they're going to have to take on riskier loans, right? So that's what they're talking about here, invest in riskier projects. Increasing the total financial system risk. Because they're saying it's going to put the whole entire financial system at risk, and we've seen that with all these bank faults over the first, SVB and FTX and the other one, right? So it says here, banks could also turn to wholesale short-term money markets because wholesale funding tends to be more volatile. Banks may have to reduce lending and hold more liquid assets under current regulatory liquidity requirements, according to Bank of England and the Bank of International Settlements. It says also, smaller banks could be disproportionately affected because they lack access to alternative funding markets and could find it more difficult to compete in a higher interest rate setting, ultimately leading to a more concentrated banking sector. So basically what they're saying here is your small banks are gone. We're going to concentrate the power and JP Morgan's going to take over. All right. They're not saying that. I'm saying that. But that's pretty much what they're saying here. Smaller banks can be disproportionately affected because they're going to have to take more risk. They don't have the liquidity. They don't have the money to stay in business and compete because you need vast amounts of liquidity or reserves on hand in case you have a bank run. or in case you're involved in the money markets and there's a call, if you're dealing in a call money market, you definitely want to keep some reserves on hand in case somebody calls that loan. Right? But again, a more concentrated banking sector, centralization of power within the hands of the state is a goal of Lenin. As Lenin said, 90% of communizing a nation is creating a central bank. Let's continue. It says CBDC may become an attractive safe haven in times of financial turmoil. So again, they're going to say, oh, the dollar collapsed, BRICS and all this stuff. Don't worry, we got the remedy. CBDC is a safe haven in times of financial turmoil. It says here, by offering a safe and liquid alternative to deposits. I don't even know how these people get away with this shit. This shit is hilarious. Well, I know how to get away with it because nobody actually like reads this stuff and knows how they talk about it. Nobody's going to stand up and say anything. But how do you have a liquid alternative to deposits? Either the money is there or it's not. So basically they're saying if you don't have any deposits, we'll put the money there. We'll just type some numbers in the screen and put it there. Anyway, and could thus be an attractive destination for potential run on banks. So they're going to protect you from bank runs because they're just going to put the money in there and safeguard you from a lack of deposits. I'm sorry. It's just funny that they just put it right there. They're like, they don't even hide this shit. It's just, and they know we're stupid. Anyway, such run risk from commercial bank liabilities to CBDC could occur even if the CBDC is not interest bearing. Obviously, a run is always a threat, right? It says, in theory, CBDC design may limit such run risk in times of crisis. Oh, yeah. How are you going to stop a bank run? Let's find out. Furthermore, crisis management tools, including deposit insurance and discount window policies, can, at least in principle, limit run risk. And that's kind of like what we have now. However, these are serious concerns of risk that have to be carefully considered. Many jurisdictions consider limits on CBDC holdings to limit run risk. So they're talking about programming the money so you can't do a bank run. And state contingent policies, including potentially negative rates on bank digital currency holdings in times of crisis. A further serious concern is if foreign CBDC is easily available. Runs toward foreign CBDCs could make it more difficult to manage the currency and liquidity crisis, particularly in emerging market and developing economies. So basically saying, if your country is having liquidity issues, I could run to somebody else's CBDC. I could run to China's CBDC or Russia's or India's. So not only worried about a bank run, they're also worried about people going to foreign currencies. It says here, such flight to foreign CBDCs could potentially destabilize domestic monetary policy and the banking system. In such cases, jurisdictions could consider capital flow management measures in the design of CBDC. And this is where you need to have an IQ above 80 to understand what's going on over here, right? So what do they mean when they say capital flow management measures in the design of the CBDC? What does that mean? Basically what they're saying is they're going to design the CBDC so you cannot transact in foreign CBDCs, only certain foreign CBDCs, which means you will not be able to transfer your USDC, US digital coin, for the China coin, the Russia coin, the BRICS coin, non-transferable. We will program it so it cannot speak to those other currencies. We will cut you off from other CBDCs. Go get you a VPN and transfer your Bitcoin or your. And this is why I said. See, people think this is going to kill crypto. This is going to make crypto more valuable because it's about sovereignty. Like if you want sovereignty, so again, I gotta pause right here. I'm gonna come back. Let me put myself on the big screen. So, dystopian future. Dystopian future has a CBDC which says you can't transact with other foreign currencies. However, some merchants are gonna say we're gonna do otherwise. Merchants and DeFi, DGens, et cetera, et cetera. So the DeFi world, what we're gonna do is we're gonna be transferring things like Syscoin and using the crypto so that we can transfer different CBDCs. So I'll be able to get some Russia CBDC, and this is where the Forex market is going to take a little bit of a change too, but doing foreign exchange, right? Foreign exchange is going to take a very different approach. But in order to do foreign exchange, what you'll need to do is you need to trade your USD for some sort of cryptocurrency like Syscoin, then take that Syscoin and then transfer it to a foreign currency. Because your CBDC will not be able to do so because it will program it. And that's why I said in the future, everyone's a tech geek. In the future, conservatives are tech geeks, not by choice, right? And that's why I say if you're conservative now and you're not paying attention to this, you're going to be in a world of hurt later trying to learn this stuff, okay? Now, granted, it's going to be a lot easier because technology and the program is going to be a lot easier. So granted, it's going to be a lot easier, but you're still going to need some technical savvy to, or just know-how, just to know what you're doing and why you're doing it. But in the future, everybody's a tech geek, just like all of the dystopian futuristic movies. Everybody's a tech geek, not because they want to be, but because they want their sovereignty, they want their freedom, and they know that. I always think of like altered carbon, like whoever is that, communist dictator that says you have to use this money. Some people are not, that money says, we noticed that you had some disruptive content on your social media. We have placed limits on your CBDC wallet. So in order for you to go around that, you will need to use private money like CBDC or a form of cryptocurrency, but VPNs are illegal, so you'll need a device that'll make sure they can't detect your VPN so you can run your VPN so you can do transactions and provide food for your family or buy a gun. Because the CBDC will say, hey, CBDC cannot be used to purchase that AR-15. Here's your little, green neon laser gun that, is basically going to do nothing to somebody, right? It's basically a glorified stun gun, okay? This is what. So conservatives in the future, AKA the underground, AKA the right wing, are going to be technologically advanced, not by choice, but by necessity for freedom. And it's right here in the IMF paper. Let's keep going. So they talked about capital flow management measures inside the design and basically limits, right? And they're going to tell you about the limits. It's coming up in another section here. It says central banks need to make a careful assessment of the ability of the financial sector to adjust CBDC issuance, right? So this is about, they'll tell you actually. So here it says this assessment should cover both potential and initial effects of CBDC issued, right? So printing of money, as well as longer term effects when the CBDC could affect the structure and functioning of financial system and economy more broadly. So they don't know how it's going to affect the greater economy. It says this will involve assessing banking sector robustness, competitiveness, bank reserve levels, and funding structures. They pretend like they want to preserve the banking sector. Really, it's just JPM. The central bank should conduct a thorough scenario analysis with a spectrum of different CBDC option outcomes, tracing banking sector impacts based upon data and parameters discussed previously for each scenario. Now, here's a sentence I wanted to get to. This exercise gives the central bank a landscape of potential outcomes that can guide design choices. For instance, a hard cap on holdings of CBDC or conversion limits, which is discussed in the section on design choices and could limit disintermediation risk, right? So they're going to place limits and caps on how much you can hold and how much you can convert and all of that, right? So let's skip this section. Let's go straight to this section here. It says institutional capacity. Hold on, let me check on the chat. Let me make sure the chat's good. Chat, y'all good? Everybody following? Put one in the chat if you following, if everything's good. Put one in the chat if you're following, everything's good. Real quick, if you want to be one of those people that are on the cutting edge of technology and moving towards sovereign and, free crypto. When I say free, I mean like from a freedom perspective. We have a link in the description box below. If you want to be some of those conservatives that are getting ahead of this thing before it's too late, you can participate and get paid at the same time. Sorry, I had to sneeze. Hit the link in the description box below and join our exclusive group for the Super DApp. And DApps are going to be very, very, very prominent and popular in the future, in the dystopian future. So here's our Telegram group. Hit that link. Join us if you want to get paid to be a part of the launch of this project. We just need your help, spreading the message when this project launches, and you will be paid as such. What up, Kamar? Kamar in the house. Renee Vogel and Rudy in the house. What up, man? Thank you, Pravada. All right, so let's go back. So join that group if you want to be, if you're not in crypto, especially, and you need to learn and you want to be a part of the future, you definitely need to get in here. All right, let's go back. Shout out to Syscoin. Now, institutional capacity for a successful CBDC project. The identification of adequate human resources is crucial, including for central bank and stakeholder personnel, all other competent authorities and private sector collaborators. It must be assessed whether the central bank has sufficient know-how amongst its staff, right? Now, the reason why I mentioned, I highlighted this is because their staff is complete idiots. They don't know what the hell they're doing. I've spoken about this before, where somebody may have financial prowess, but not technological, and vice versa, right? So technology providers are going to need to come in and educate these people because they don't know what the hell they're talking about. All right, let's scroll down. We're going to go down to the section D. It says page 16, stakeholder engagement and public communication. It says central banks should identify and map stakeholders of CBDC issuance and adopt a strategy for engaging with them throughout the CBDC project. So this is basically anybody who has an interest, including government politicians. So they're going to have to talk to government politicians and educate them, which means indoctrinate, right? Because the government politicians, you think Nancy Pelosi sitting around reading this right now? You think who's the lady that looked like James Brown? You think she's what's her name? Margaret? What's her name? You think she's sitting around reading this? You think Mitch McConnell's sitting around reading this? You think AOC sitting around reading this? No, somebody's going to come in and tell them what to think. Anyway, it says government authorities in particular, ministries of finance are key stakeholders. The central bank should carefully coordinate with government authorities to ensure support and that the CBDC would also address their needs and challenges. For instance, authorities that carry out regular government to household payments, such as Social Security transfers, can provide important feedback on the challenges they face. So you're going to be bringing in Social Security and all the other government programs to come in and tell them how this program works so that they can program the CBDC. And this is partly how they're going to sell the CBDC. It's going to be through government programs. Let's continue. Most jurisdictions require approval from political stakeholders for legal reforms that will allow potential CBDC issuance. So again, CBDC is illegal at this point and unlawful. So they will need to get those legal reforms in place. Political decisions should be based on information that is accurate as possible. Other government authorities, public institutions, and stakeholders will also need to be consulted when discussing whether to give the central bank the authority to issue CBDC. Misunderstandings of the nature of the project can be ingrained and effectively block the possibility of issuing CBDC for the foreseeable future through lack of support for the project. So again, there is a roadblock of legality. For instance, now this is what you guys got to pay attention to. For instance, misunderstanding of the nature of programmability of money and the ability of central banks to monitor individual transactions has generated backlash against CBDC in some countries. Basically what they're saying is we know the money can be programmed and we know they can see what we're doing with the transactions and we don't like it, and they're calling that a misunderstanding. Let's continue with this section. Finally, the adoption of CBDC will rely on stakeholder engagement communication. Okay, so it says here, maintaining public confidence in the central bank. We talked about that before. They want to keep their role in our lives. And then the value of CBDC is essential. Policymakers should adopt trust-building policy measures. Basically, they need the policy. They're going to train the policymakers, and the policymakers are going to train us and tell us, look, you can trust us, right? Which entails taking concerns expressed by stakeholders into design considerations. For instance, both the Bank of England and the European Central Bank have clearly expressed that their potential CBDCs will not be programmable by the central bank or the government, reflecting concerns from stakeholders that programmability could restrict the spending choices of users. So they put it right there. They put it right there. Hold on, we got people coming into the chat right now. Or talking. Okay, AK just joined. And okay, people are joining. Okay, cool. Shout out to the people that just joined our Telegram. Right? So they're talking about programmability of money. And of course, if they can program the money, they can tell us what we can and cannot buy with our money. It says central bank regularly meeting with the political body. So the central bank's going to have to meet with the political body, obviously for legal purposes. Now it has here the Bahamas example, and we talked about this before, how it's Bahamas, Jamaica, and Nigeria are the three places where they actually have production of the CBDC functioning outside of China and India. It says in December 2019, the Central Bank of Bahamas launched a CBDC pilot on the island. 9 months prior, the central bank conducted a survey in the region to assess the level of digitalization, and they use the term financial inclusion twice here, right? So they're saying, oh, poor black people in the Bahamas, they need financial inclusion. We got to help them out. Here go the CBDC. CBDC help the black man. The black man can't do nothing without the CBDC. That's basically what that is. Design choices of CBDC. CBDC design choices should be aimed at meeting the designated policy objectives while minimizing the identified risks. Also, stakeholders should be consulted on their views on design features. The better stakeholder preferences are understood, the easier it will be to make design choices that will appeal to them. There might be trade-offs. And Thomas Sowell Ben told you, between policy objectives and risk mitigation measures. For instance, the wish to reduce disintermediation impact of CBDC by choosing not to remunerate holdings. Okay. Which is much different than remunerate, which is the term I used before and gave you the wrong definition earlier in this podcast, and I apologize for that. I got dyslexia, so shit happens. You'll be all right. Remunerate holdings. So basically what they're saying here is, again, this is about financial services. Might diminish its attractiveness and reduce its ability to promote other goals, right? So they're saying they're worried about, when they say reduce disintermediation, they're talking about banks dying, right? That's basically what they're saying here. So let's go to the design principles section. It says design principles should inform the development and testing of the CBDC at every stage of the process. First, the design of the CBDC should be centered around promoting the policy goals while taking into account user needs. So again, they're more concerned with the policy goals rather than us, the end user. And that's not exactly surprising, because this is all about controlling monetary policy. The CBDC should be designed to be interoperable with existing payment networks. Now, that's nothing, crazy, but that's just basically saying that it's compatible with our current payment systems. It says the design must be capable of incorporating risk mitigating features. For example, reducing risk of bank disintermediation could entail specific design choices such as holding and transaction size caps. Now, wait a second. Let's stop right there. Let's just stop right there and take a look at this, okay? So they told us before that it was a misunderstanding. It says misunderstanding about the programmability of money and the ability to monitor individual transactions. But they said it's a misunderstanding about the programmability of money. But they clearly state that, oh, but we can program it to have holding and transaction cap sizes. We can place limits on your transactions. We can place limits on how much of this stuff you actually have. Oh, you have $1 million? Well, that's your limit. Anything excess? Well, who knows what they'll do with. And of course, they use the term future-proofed once again, right? Let's keep going. So this sentence here in this section says, future IMF publications will consider different business models for CBDC intermediaries. Basically what they're saying, they don't know what the fuck they're going to do about your bank, but we got to look out for future reports on that, and I will report back as soon as they issue that. This was issued yesterday, and I'm here today talking about it, so I'll be covering that one within the 24 hours of it being published, hopefully as well. All right, so make sure you hit the subscribe button if you have not already. Account and transaction limits. There's actually a section in this paper on account and transaction limits. So let's talk about this programmability of money. To reduce risks of bank disintermediation, holdings of CBDC could be capped. Oh my God. So, actually, let's just finish and then I'll come back. For greater flexibility, there could be CBDC wallets with different caps. That could also be combined with greater or lesser requirements for identification. So you might need more identification. With the CBDC. If holding limits are reached, the excess can, doesn't say will, says can automatically be transferred into the receiving user's bank account. Okay. So who knows? This is a bit of a gray area. This sentence right here is a bit of a gray area. Not sure what to think of it yet. But in order to stop disintermediation, basically in order to save the banks, we might have to put caps on people. But if we don't put caps on people, then we can get rid of the banks. Or maybe we get rid of the banks and we still put caps on people. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Now check this out. Finally, jurisdictions can consider whether there are reasons to limit CBDC holdings by foreigners who can own and pay with CBDC when visiting the jurisdiction after registering for an account with a low limit on both holding and transaction sizes. Right? So they mentioned this for foreigners. But what about you, the domestic user? You think you won't have no limits and holding limits? And transaction limits? And the stuff will change too. It'll change like by the day. Like, hey guys, anything over this amount will be taxed on any given day. Or anything under this amount will be taxed. They don't want you hoarding the money. They want you moving. They want you spending it. They don't want you hoarding assets. Are you serious? Instead, let's continue. If improved cross-border functionality is an important policy objective for the CBDC project. Central banks should reach out to foreign counterparts, in particular within the same region, to countries with which they share significant trade and financial linkages, to jointly discuss issues of CBDC interoperability and design, such as, and then they say, central banks should also seek communication in international organizations such as the Bank of International Settlements and the IMF, right? So basically saying, before y'all do anything, make sure y'all talk to us because we the real gangsters here, right? And then here, when they talk about share significant trade and financial linkages, really what they're saying here is there's going to need to be a cooperation amongst countries. And this is why I say we're going to have the bifurcation of the world, where BRICS is going to have one coin, the Western will have the Western coin, and then our CBDCs will communicate with that Western coin, whatever it may be. But there is going to need to be some cooperation between countries, which means there could be one global governing body of money and monetary policy due to these linkages, which means we could be governed by a foreign government. Let's continue. So remuneration, right? So basically remuneration is money services. And it says here, although none of the CBDCs launched or piloted to date have been remunerated, there are reasons to consider interest-bearing CBDCs such as supporting monetary policy. Remuneration could also be used to modulate CBDC demand by increasing, decreasing rates to ramp up or dampen demand. So again, the money would be programmed, like I said, on a daily basis. It could be whenever they feel like, just to, change the way money flows. To mitigate disintermediation risk, tiered remuneration, which they describe here as high interest rates for small holdings and low rates for high balances, right? Which is pretty much standard, right? Can be used to discourage demand for CBDC as a store of value. So if people are hoarding the CBDC, they could hit you with a negative interest rate, and you're just slowly losing money for having that money in there, right? Spend it, get rid of it, put it somewhere. However, legal issues might arise from interest-bearing CBDC that should be carefully assessed. So what they're basically saying is the CBDC right now is unlawful and illegal. So make sure you go talk to your local politicians and pay them off so that we can issue the CBDC. For instance, it must be assessed whether the CBDC can legally be remunerated. Right? Can it? Even if the decision is made not to remunerate, the capacity to do so could be incorporated to keep future options open. All right. Hold on a second. I need to look something up because I just reached a point of confusion. Oh, it's a spelling error. Oh, it's a spelling error. Oh, okay. That's why I was confused. All right, my bad. I just had to look something up really quick. Because they say here remunerated and then they say remunerated. And this is a misspelling. But I think you can spell it both ways. All right, so let's go to the next section here. Privacy and anonymity. So there's 3 points here. It says or 3 ways that this could handle privacy and anonymity. It says first would be fully transparent to the central bank, in which all data relates to transactions and customer due diligence are visible to the central bank. Right, so it's fully transparent. Then you have transparent to intermediary, in which all transaction and customer due diligence data are visible to intermediary, basically your bank. Your bank will be able to see the transactions. Then it says privacy threshold, in which there is a high degree of privacy for low value transactions or microtransactions, whereas large value transactions are subject to standard customer due diligence checks. So right now, if I sent you, $1 million worth of Syscoin, nobody could stop that. I'd press a button and it'd be there in 5 minutes, right? Nobody can stop that. I won't have to sign no paperwork. I didn't have to ask anybody for permission. But what they're saying is, if it's a large value transaction, we might need to look at that information. We don't know if we can guarantee anonymity. Let's continue. It says complete anonymity would conflict with AML and CFT procedures. So they're basically saying that we can't have anonymity because it destroys our power. It destroys our ability to snoop. Because we have to watch for people that are laundering money, right? And laundering money is just basically a way to say hiding money from the government because have extorted us, right? So there are extortion laws. Anonymity would not allow them to extort us. That's basically what they're saying. Anonymity will not allow you to extort me. Anonymity will not allow them to extort us, right? And most central banks are opting for the privacy threshold model as the best compromise between guaranteeing privacy of payments. So basically, business as usual. Business as usual. While accounting for regulatory requirements. Box 4 provides an example. Also, central banks typically have access to pseudonymous data But in some cases, they can de-anonymize if they can show probable cause, such as with a court order. Now, we saw that with the safe company this week. Got a court order. Oh, here's the combination to the safe. So, CBDC, yeah, wait, we got a court order. That's not exactly anonymous. We know who you are. Anyway, let's come down. It says a possible digital euro on privacy. And it says here, in this respect, the European Data Protection Board recommended that the digital euro be made available both online and offline, along a threshold below which no tracing is possible to allow full anonymity of daily transactions. So that's just daily transactions. That's not like the big transactions. And we all know the big transactions are the important ones, and those are the ones that we kind of want to hide. Programmability. There's a programmability section here, and it says CBDC could potentially be programmed for conditional payments by utilizing technologies such as smart contracts. We talked about that before. Potential functions of programmability include making automatic point of sale tax payments. Automatic point of sale tax payments. I'm going to read that again. Automatic point of sale tax payments. You will pay your taxes automatically from every transaction. Goodbye tax refund. Also, and controversially, smart contracts could restrict where or when it could be spent. Where or when. We can restrict where or when you will spend your money. For example, if funds are provided as part of a government household relief subsidy. Oh, yeah. Everybody on them government programs. Oh, you about to really feel communism now. You can't get lobster with them food stamps. This is the CBDC. We program it. You will eat bugs. How about, actually, you're not even going to eat bugs. You're going to have this Beyond Meat. Bugs are going to be a delicacy compared to the Beyond Meat that you eat. How about this lab-grown meat burger? That's what you're going to eat. Programmed right into the money. This your dinner. Says it right there. There is, however, a difference between smart money and smart payments. Thus, payment conditionally can be introduced within the payment infrastructure without altering the nature of the digital currency itself, meaning they can program payments. Your car payment, your house payment, your rent payment, all this stuff can be programmed. Just those payments. Such programmability of payments is not unique for CBDC and could be applied for other types of digital payments. That is true. This is not unique to the CBDC, and they can program payments as it is now. What else is in here? Legal framework, regulation, and oversight. Section F, page 24. So it says CBDC issuance and distribution required a solid legal basis. Again, AML laws need a legal basis to issue the CBDC, basically saying you got to talk to Congress first. And they said there are major legal implications is the legal relationship between the central bank and the holder of the CBDC. Yeah, depending on what model they choose. But yeah, this stuff has to get passed through Congress. Then it says here in regards to central bank law may need to be reformed to allow issuance of CBDC. Of course it needs to be reformed. And here are 3 bullet points. An explicit function in the central bank law to issue currency, generally without limiting the issuance of currency to physical currency such as banknotes and coins, right? Associated powers to issue token-based CBDC, such as the power to produce, acquire, distribute, withdraw, and destroy token-based CBDC. An explicit power to open accounts for all intended users of an account-based CBDC. So there's some different ways they're looking at how they're going to make this thing legal and lawful. But maybe one day we wake up and the Federal Reserve says, hey, you now have an account at the Federal Reserve. Who knows? Who knows? But that would be explicit power. So explicit power, associated powers, and explicit function, okay, are the 3 different bullet points there. Is that it? Yeah, this is all experimentation and technology. Here they talk about the Bahamas, Jamaica, and Nigeria. It says, to date, only 3 jurisdictions in the world have entered in the production phase of a CBDC. And again, that's Bahamas, Jamaica, and Nigeria. Then they go on here to say the CBDC is never finished. Obviously, with technology, technology is never finished. It's always evolving and ongoing, right? And reiterating. So obviously, the CBDC is never finished, and one day, it could be different from what you have seen it. And that right there is the conclusion of my presentation on how should central banks explore central bank digital currency as told to you by the International Monetary Fund, aka the World Bank, the IMF. Rumble chat cheats on their taxes about being unemployed. Should I open up phone lines or can I get out of here? I'm gonna just catch up on the chat real fast. What? Maxine Waters, yeah, that's her name. Thank you. I always forget her name. I always want to call her Margaret for some reason. I always want to call her Margaret Sanger. See my longer comment on CBDC and crypto opinions. All right, let me just open up phone lines to make it easier. I'll open up phone lines. Text Hotep in your name to 202-596-5631. 202-596-5631. I really didn't feel like taking phone calls today because I wanted to sort of enjoy my Saturday, but duty calls. Duty fucking calls. So, yeah, text 202-596-5631 with Hotep in your name. And if you got questions and comments, and I'll be right back after this short commercial break.
Yeah, I can try to get that handled for you. Again, it's only my second day, so if you can give me a second. How I'm supposed to do this? How the hell are we supposed to do this by 5 o'clock?
I have no clue.
Is that possible? Hey, do you have the password to... How'd you finish all your work already?
He's not tapped in. How'd you get that done so quick?
They think they're gonna be able to budget that?
It's money. That's money right there, you understand?
You guys finished your work 6 hours early? He's not tapped in.
Jonah, what's up, man?
Nada.
What's good, man?
Well,
What's going on?
first things first, do you know John J. McCloy?
No. Name sounds familiar, though.
First president of the World Bank. He was on the Warren Commission. He spent like 16 years as president of CFR. He was also president of Chase Manhattan. So he's definitely one that needs to be looked into.
Okay. All right.
And anyway, so yeah, he's definitely one you would need to look into, especially for you. I'll send you the name and the good book on him. But now, do you know about the Ludlow massacre?
Yeah, Colorado. Pinkertons and the National Guard murdered men, women, and children in the mountains because they wouldn't come to work. They were striking.
And then that was a Rockefeller mine, though, right? So what was Rockefeller's? Yeah, that was a Rockefeller product. They just all they wanted to do was just educate how the Rockefellers are doing their best for the unions, and they're doing the best for the working man. And if they give the employees more money, then it's going to destroy the company. This is literally the fruition of that. After the Ludlow massacre, that's what they wanted to do, but they couldn't get away with it. So just tell you how good their system is for you, even though it's the garbage, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, too, nothing new under the sun, right? It's always the same plan for these Venetians, these Phoenicians, these Canaanites, these Babylonians, Assyrians. It's the same families all the way through.
Yeah, yeah. But let me get to the CBDC calls, man.
Okay, awesome.
All right, I'll tip and bill. Opinionated Junkie, thank you for the super chat. He said, are you ready for a mass mandate in NJ? Nah, not really. Ghosting, go ahead. Ghosting on call in. Rudy, Kev, go ahead, y'all. Call in. I didn't see the other guy on my Rumble said he had a longer. I don't see it, bro.
Call from Murphy's Law.
Ghosting.
What up?
What up? What up, bro?
Hey, I like what you did with the CBDC.
Thanks, man. What I do?
You put the that's because look, that's some real deal old nigga shit right there.
What?
Because they will fuck around and move the accent from the fucking C at the end to the D.
Wait, I'm lost. Wait, what do you mean?
How you was saying that shit earlier, CBDC.
Oh, yeah.
They gonna move that accent, you know they are.
Yeah.
No longer CBDC, it's CBDC.
CBDC. Mm-hmm. Big facts.
Hey, nah, but I was listening to Wendy O's last stream on this shit.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, it's obvious that they can't do everything they want to do with paper cash, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they go to this shit. They go to this motherfucking electronic shit where it's monitored. Everything's going through their system. They know everything. They see everything.
Mm-hmm.
But like you got these alternative coins like the Syscoin and shit. Wouldn't it be like easier for them to find that shit than it would be for if you just had like regular ass cash?
I think the opposite would be true.
You think so?
Yeah, I think cash would be easier to find. Because in order to find my Syscoin, you'd have to breach my house. And then you'd have to get access to my various apps would require passwords, right? So you'd need my consent. Whereas if I had cash and I had my cash in a safe, you just bust a safe and you can get in. But if you don't know the password to my wallet, you wouldn't know what I have.
No shit.
Yeah, like you need my seed phrase. And unless you have my seed phrase, you can't access my wallet. So you wouldn't be able to prove I had it.
So like they couldn't know what you like you're fucking with if you paid for something like that's above board, or you wouldn't just normally fucking use that type of shit for paying for shit above board, would you?
Correct. You would be smart with how you pay for things.
I see.
Right.
Okay.
For example, what you might do is you might put assets through a mixer, which basically commingles your assets with other people's assets, so it's untraceable. Which is possible with wallets on like eCash, BCH, BSV. I'm not sure if Syscoin has a mixer. Or you would just open up several wallets. You could just have a separate wallet with a separate private address and do certain transactions with that. And they wouldn't be able to tell.
How long do you think it's going to be before they start cracking down and regulating on that shit, though? Mixes and shit.
They're already put legislation out in regards to mixers. They do not like mixers. They want to do something about mixers because they want to see. The issue is they just don't. They don't have any like legal precedent to really base it upon, right? Because the technology is just so unique and different that they can't really pass anything. That's a difference. See, it's different when people are doing things than when something is technology. Like you can't really ban intelligence, right? You can't ban a thought in somebody's head. And once that thought becomes a protocol, how do you ban that protocol? You can't ban the protocol. People are still going to be able to use it. It's a protocol, right? It's fucking it's a program. So, but again, like I said, crypto's not their concern. Their concern is our stable coins.
Right.
Crypto won't be an issue until like we're going to be old and gray or dead and gone at the point where people will be transacting crypto as a necessity to be free, and you'll be hiding those transactions. But that's like extreme future.
Okay.
Yeah. And my prediction is as we move into that space, crypto becomes more and more important because, you know, people want their sovereignty and be able to hide their transactions. So that's what's going to make crypto spike in price. just based upon demand.
Right. Yeah, I'm looking at this shit and I'm trying to get invested in it mentally and financially after that. But I sit and I ask myself, like, do I want to fucking rely this heavily on motherfucking tech? Because they got shit that's coming down the pike where it's thinking like us, but it just has the ability to fucking do next level shit with numbers. So I'm like, damn, man, do I want to fucking fuck around in this realm, or do I just want to continue to trade vegetables and goods?
Yeah, well, the thing is, you want to hedge your bets, right? And that's what the global elites are great at. That's why they call it a hedge fund. They're good at hedging their bets. So what you want to do is you want to hedge your bets. You want to have exposure. Like I said, when you talk about my investment portfolio includes bullets, right? So, you know, just as I invest in stocks, crypto, I also invest in bullets, right? And then if you invest in gold, it better be hard physical gold like that you're keeping in the safe, right? Or somewhere else off site, you know, safe deposit box or something like that. But yeah, it's just about having exposure to it as opposed to not having exposure to it. Do you need a lot of exposure to it? No, crypto is one of those things where you only need a little bit of exposure to it to really see the benefits.
Hell yeah. Keep fucking plugging away at this shit though. It's starting to click in my brain a little bit. It's just I kind of look at things through a fucking frame of fucking, you know, my past life and like how beneficial could it be in that avenue.
Mm-hmm. Oh, super beneficial in that avenue.
It's hard for me to kind of like navigate that shit because I'm not one to just go into some new shit, especially financially, without knowing exactly what the fuck's going on in there.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
You know, you see Michelle Obama trying to run?
Yeah, I'm gonna talk about that tomorrow.
All right, I'm gonna leave that on.
But no, I think a lot of crypto is about how you acquire it, right? So the most common way is to do it through KYC, which is know your customer. And basically, like if you were to buy it through Cash App, you know, in order to extract that Bitcoin, you have to give them your photo ID. So in that way, the feds will be able to track the Bitcoin, right? But then there's also earning Bitcoin. So that way your wallet is anonymous. So the only people that would know who that wallet address is are the people who have transacted with you. But they don't always need to know your identity. We sell Master Focus. We don't have to know the identity of every user that purchases. You know what I'm saying? You don't need to know the identity of somebody in order to transact with them. It happens all the time. So with crypto, people will acquire Bitcoin in trades, either trades for services or goods. And then that way the Bitcoin is anonymous. It's trackable, but it's still anonymous.
Right.
And then you can move that Bitcoin into other assets like Monero. Like you can move it into Monero, make a bunch of transactions in Monero, then move from Monero to Ethereum, and people will never know that you were the guy that did that transaction between Bitcoin and Monero, because Monero is a private coin.
Nice.
Yeah.
They coming this shit though, bro. They coming. They moving. They moving harder on than they are on anything else.
Yes, they are. But here's the thing. And I said this before. I said, I tweeted this. I said, the real gap is not the wealth gap. It's the intellectual gap, right? So, for example, when I talk about hiding your transactions, how many people are actually going to sit down and like take time to learn that shit? Very, very few, which is why the government is not concerned with crypto, because they know the majority of people are not going to sit down and learn this shit. And the rest, they're just going to scare off using their influencers. Crypto bad. You know how conservatives think, oh, crypto bad, right? So between the scare tactics and people just not wanting to do the learnings, crypto will never really have a large part of the population. It'll always be an underground thing. Always. Right. Crypto will always be an underground thing. Always.
I remember listening to them motherfucking spaces just on a humbug, just fucking bored as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody in there got some weird ass fucking NFT for their profile pic.
Yeah.
I used to sit there and think to myself, these niggas they done left me. The whole system done left my in the dust. I don't know what the this shit is anymore. I don't even know if they're speaking English.
Yeah. It's a lot of learning. I'm not even gonna act like it's not. It's a lot of learning. I mean, I'm somebody who, as far as crypto technology is concerned, I probably know more than like some of the biggest influencers as far as technology is concerned, mostly because I'm with Syscoin and Jag, you know, and I do a lot of my own studies. As far as the technology is concerned, most people are just influencers and they just talk about the price of the coin. And anytime somebody's talking about the price of a coin, they're usually, you know, they're just shilling, right? But the power's in the technology. So most people in the crypto space don't know shit about crypto. You know what I'm saying? They just know trading and pricing, right? And at some point, that shit's gonna fucking die. I shouldn't say. Well, it's kind of dead now, but it's not gonna be as popular, I'll say, because crypto will become a necessity. And again, that's dystopian future. But it's a lot of. I would say the best thing to do is go look at crypto white paper.
White paper.
Yeah, it's a YouTube account called Crypto White Paper, and they got like videos on there, and the videos are mad stupid simple and makes it really easy to understand the material.
Write that down, man. Yeah, I'm on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, you're doing the right thing by trying to learn. Though. You said what?
I'm gonna have one of them Syscoin badges like Wendy next year. Watch. Why?
Let's get it. Let's get it.
All right, bro. I'm gonna let you go.
All right, Hotep and Bill.
Hotep and Bill.
Rudy and Cav, go ahead, man. Rudy and Cav, call in, man. People only learn when they have no choice but to learn, says Jeff Curtis. That's correct. They will only learn when they have no choice to learn. That's correct. Cav, what up, man?
Hey, what up? I'm looking at this as a legal standpoint. Now, I don't think they're going to call it central bank digital currency. I think they're going to call it central bank digital coin and use the law that Congress has the only authority to coin money, and then turn around and say all cryptocurrency or crypto coins are illegal. But that was my thoughts on it. And I'll get out of here and let you take the rest of your callers and get out and enjoy your Saturday.
Hey, I appreciate that, man. Thank you. It's compelling. It's a compelling argument. It's an argument I've made as well in the past, that exact argument. The fact that we use the term coin. It really does trouble me. But again, Congress could pass whatever laws they want against cryptocurrency. Congress cannot stop cryptocurrency. In fact, what Congress is going to realize is the more they legislate against cryptocurrency, the more valuable cryptocurrency becomes. So I hope they bring the regulations, because this is going to make my bag bigger. But you can't stop technology. You can't stop it. It's just not, it's not possible. So you got these old farts in Congress thinking they could just legislate away cryptocurrency, but that's just not how it works. This is not how it works. It's just, you can't do it. You can't do it. Even if they made it illegal, how would they know I'm doing it? I'd have to tell you I'm doing it. I'd have to tell you, for example, when people pirate sports broadcasts, right? And they do it through a VPN. You don't know who the fuck's pirating that sports program. They can barely figure out who's the one broadcasting the shit. You can't stop technology, bro. You can make it illegal. You can't stop the technology. Jeff Curtis said, couple of seconds for the Saturday Grift. Thank you, bro. Appreciate you. Jeff said, I think gold is dead. Bitcoin is far superior. I don't think, I don't look at Bitcoin as, I'm sorry, gold. Did you say Bitcoin or gold? Gold, yeah. Gold is dead from like a investment, but I look at it more of as a store of value than an investment because of gold's intrinsic capabilities. Like gold is a very interesting metal. Like it's incorruptible. It's the I think it's one of the only metals that can't rust, right? And it conducts electricity at a high rate. So there's like real usage for gold, right? And that's why gold, especially in a dystopian future, will hold value, because you'll need it for, to, if you want to communicate via radio, or you want to run cables in your fort, right? In your compound, you're gonna need gold. And there are people like, yo, we need gold to run this electricity. Rudy, what's up, man?
What's going on, brother? How you doing today, man?
I'm good, man. Working on the Saturday. You already know. I've been at the desk since fucking 10 a.m., man. I'm ready to get up.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to, man, my bad, brother. I just wanted to chime in real quick. I love and respect what you do with these CBDC, and I force my wife to watch all of them for her and the kids' sake. But my brother, I 150,000% refuse to participate in this bullshit, dude.
You're gonna have to.
I refuse. No, I'm not, brother.
How you gonna pay your mortgage? How you gonna pay your car note? How you gonna get gas?
That's for her to figure out, dude. I don't. When it comes down, if they put this crack down on us, dog, I'm done, dude. I'm done, man. And I'll give them hell on my way out. No, I'm not for this world.
You're gonna have
brother.
to live off the land.
I got love for the Father, man. I don't got love for this world, man. So when that time comes, when that ultimate control, I refute, bro. I spent 10 years of my life in a box for fucking marijuana that's fucking legal now in the state that they sent me away. 10 years in a fucking box. You think I'm gonna let them box in my entire life? You think I'm gonna let them box in my entire fucking life? Tell me when to eat, tell me what I can buy, tell me what I can't buy. I 100% as a human being, and I, as a free man and a follower of a higher power, I don't give a fuck. I 100% refuse to participate, and I respect everything you do, because my wife is 15 years younger than me, and my stepchildren, I don't ever want, but I, as a man, I'm not dealing with it, bro. I'm not dealing with it. And I give them hell on my Scarface way out the door, man. Because they're going to come send them tyrants to get me. But I'm done, dude. This shit is fucking insane, dude.
You are a perfect candidate for DeFi.
What does that mean?
DeFi stands for decentralized finance.
Yeah, I mean, I feel you, brother, but I listen, man. You're an intelligent human being, man. I got a soul, and I'm a good dude. I'm good at reading people, but bro, I'm not an academic, man. I'm not an academic, man. I can't. I get pissed off at a fucking iPhone and ready to throw it through the fucking wall, dog. I don't have a computer. I've never owned a computer. I don't do tech, bro. I know how to pick shit up, put shit down, work with my fucking hands. You know what I'm saying?
What's funny is, like, you're the type of person I think of in a dystopian future that is technologically advanced by need. Like, you there's a version of you in the future 100 years from now, a guy who's saying the same exact thing as you, except he's got he's basically saying, I'm not putting that electric arm on me, but he's doing DeFi and all types of shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's levels to this shit, but in the future, everybody's going to be technologically advanced.
Well, that's why every time you put one of these out, trust me, my old lady watches every one of them, so her and the kids have some kind of future to live, because they're a lot younger than I am. But me, my brother, I'm destined for the promised land one way or the other. I refuse, dude. This ain't nothing but a jail of supposedly free jail, dog.
Yeah.
It ain't nothing but a supposedly free jail, dude. Hey, you go to the store. No, you used your gas quota for the week. No, hey, man, you bought enough meat for the fucking month. Nah, man, dude, when you've been where I've been, and where Goldstein's been, and where Strong Dad's been, listen, man, I'm 48 years old, man. I lived a full fucking life, man. When they flip that switch, man, and they try to put that fucking boot on my neck, man, I teach my wife and my stepchildren everything you put out there. I make her watch, so her and her her children can continue to live. But I mean, I'm not for it. There's a higher place for the vet's soul, dude. I'm moving on, but I refuse, dude. I refuse, man. Sometimes if a man don't stand for something, he'll fall for any fucking thing, and I'm not falling for this shit, brother.
Hey,
But I love you, man. Keep putting it out, man, because it's great information. It's great information, man, and it's for the youth, and it's for the free love and the free spirit, the free individuals. And I respect all your work, man, but when I listen to these presentations and see the dystopian future, I don't want any parts of it, man. I'll move on to the promised land, brother. And I'm not going back to the fucking gulag, dude. It's just not happening, man.
Yeah.
It's just not happening. But I got no fear, man, because there's a higher plane for the vet soul, dude. So you can't have love for this world and love for the Father, man. It's one or the other, dude. So I love you to death, brother, man. Hotep and Build, man. I can't wait till next year's Hotep. Hopefully they don't put the shit in for a Hotep con next year, man.
Nah, definitely not.
I love you, bro, man. Keep up the good work, man. Like I said, man, every time you get into one of these, you know, man, my wife, she's like, man, this guy's got it. Because she's good with the computers, man, and the kids are good with. Dude, bro, I've never owned a computer my whole life, man. I'm 48 years old, man. I never owned, like, if I can't put my hands on it, touch it, move it, when I'm you know, bro, it's but this the whole thing, though. It's the whole thing of the global elites. It's the people like me. They just, we don't want you around anyway, man. I'm the one that, we're the ones that Gates, and we're the ones that these people are like, yo, we got to get rid of these motherfuckers, dude. They're useless to us. So, I love you, bro. I love you, bro, man. Damn, keep up the good work, man. But every time you do one of these, man, it puts a little chink in my soul. Puts a little chink in my soul, man.
Well, I got more coming, so look out.
Hey, look, keep them coming. Nah, I mean, dude, you're educating. Like I said, man, like my fucking wife watches him. She loves him because she's digging in, and she's a free soul, dude. She doesn't want to have the boot under her neck. But like I told you a long time ago, me and her already had the conversation. I said, one day, man, in our lifetime, man, they're gonna show up, and it's you got to make the choice for you and the kids. But I've made my choice. You know what I'm saying? I've already made my choice, man.
Yeah.
But shout out to everybody in the chat, man. Hotep and Bill, brother. Hotep and Bill.
Hotep and Bill. So yeah, man, that's the conclusion of the podcast. Make sure you go get your master focus. Discount link in the description box below. That's the thing that keep my brain moving. You know what I mean? It's the thing that allows me to fucking sit here and study for hours on end. Crypto and financial policy, monetary policy, and run all these businesses and whatnot. Last night I was up last night, and I started out playing Hitman on PlayStation, and then that got boring really fast. While I was waiting for Spider-Man to download Miles Morales, ended up not even playing it. I was on YouTube looking at fucking AI prompts all night, and then I moved into OBS transitions and all of that. I don't know. But and then after that, I was watching chess streams until I fell asleep. Yeah. So you want to be a geek, master focus, definitely get your mind moving. Use the link in the description box below. Coupon code applied automatically. Coupon code is Grift Report. I'll probably see you tomorrow. I'm not sure. Are y'all watching football tomorrow? I think y'all watching football tomorrow. So I might not stream tomorrow, but I might say fuck football and stream anyway. So yeah. Maybe I'll run a poll on YouTube and see what y'all say. Either way, I'll be here Monday at least. Hotep and Bill.
Yeah, I can try to get that handled for you. Again, it's only my second day, so if you can give me a second. How I'm supposed to do this? How the hell are we supposed to do this by 5 o'clock?
I have no clue.
Is that possible? Hey, do you have the password to... How'd you finish all your work already?
He's not tapped in. How'd you get that done so quick?
They think they're gonna be able to budget that?
It's money. That's money right there. You understand? You guys finished your work 6 hours early?
He's not tapped in.